Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, where we talk the biggest stories week in, week out in the great state of Idaho, in District 4, which is the Magic Valley. Wow. Sorry, I got stuff falling all over the place here. My name is Brandon Baney. Welcome in. Without further delay, is it Old Saint Nick? Well, it's Old Saint something. Scott Burton. What's going on, Scott?
Well, St. Nick, I am not, because it's really not the 23rd yet, and I haven't started shopping. So, yeah, I know. I am a horrible person at Christmas. I don't deserve anything. I, in turn, don't get anybody anything. That's not true. But I just wait till the very last second when I shop. And then I just pray that Amazon delivers it on time. Oh, I'm terrible. Absolutely horrible.
That is risky business now in this new world with shipping delays and supply chain issues.
I hate it. I absolutely hate shopping. I mean, I am the stereotypical, I've got a list, I know where it's at, and if I knew what shelf it was on, that would be on the list, and I would walk right to it, grab it, pay, walk out. I don't need to browse. I don't need to take an aisle that I don't want anything on. It's A to B. And then when you factor in crowds of people, you get real cranky sometimes. And so I hate shopping. Oh.
But you love the looks on your loved ones' faces when they open the gift, right?
Yes, when they see that dad has failed again and they get a macaroni design glued to a paper plate, because that's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, well, 'tis the season. Merry Christmas, happy holidays from all of us here at the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. Programming note, Scott, with next week being Christmas, and especially you being on Christmas break from your duties at Jerome High School, I thought we could take next week off and then come back in the new year. Because it's a weird way the calendar falls this year, where like Tuesday, Wednesday is Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then the following Tuesday, Wednesday is New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So
yeah, and that whole I'm still trying to pick up the pieces of New Year's, because I was supposed to be in Vegas spending New Year's down there, just hanging out, going to a Golden Knights game on the 31st, and had it all set and ready to go. Spend a week down in Vegas messing around. And then Boise State ends up having to play the Fiesta Bowl on the 31st. So scrapped all those Vegas plans and got Fiesta Bowl tickets. So we're going to go down and catch the Rams and Cardinals at SoFi, hop on over to Glendale, catch Boise State, bounce back over to LA to catch the Seahawks and Rams, and then head back and call that Christmas break. So but I'm still putting it together, and holy cow, I have become a really good travel agent lately.
Yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too, Scott.
Yeah, let me tell you this. This is how my day started today, Brandon. I woke up. My daughter had a Christmas recital this morning, and I set my alarm. And apparently I turned it off in some sort of slumber, and something in my head said, wake up. So I wake up, and it's about 3 minutes before it starts. And it's about a mile and a half down the road. So I'm fine there. So I just scramble. I get into my pickup and I start my pickup, which I left outside, and the windshield's frosted. And I'm like, I don't have time for this, but I do have a hole where it wasn't frozen. So I'm kind of doing one of these things, driving, trying to get there as quick as I can. And what do you know? I get pulled over by a state cop. And he walks up to me, and the first thing he does is he takes a picture of my windshield, and then issues me a ticket for that. And as he was back at the car and he was doing all that, and he comes back up and he said, hey, I'm going to have to cite you for, whatever. And he hands me the ticket and he goes, and there's a community member that's riding around with me today. And we're bestowing Christmas cheer. And he reaches in to my pickup cab and hands me $100 bill. And he said, Christmas. And I go, what? He goes, I have a community member in my car and this is for you. And I'm like, what? So I turn around and I'm trying to see who's back there and I can't tell. I have no idea. So my day started with getting pulled over by a state cop and him giving me $100 bill.
Pretty remarkable. I was going to make a joke about him giving the $100 back to you after you offered it to him as a bribe, but
dang it. Yes, I should have gone that route and I didn't do it. That would have been funny. Well,
now you got to pay it forward, Scott. You got to keep that Christmas cheer going.
I do. So I'm going to have to go shopping, I think.
You're going to have to do something you hate.
I know. Pay it forward is right. You got it.
Yep. All right. Well, if we can delay your shopping for a little bit, at least to talk about some incredible basketball going on in the Magic Valley, certainly glad to help out and be an accomplice to that endeavor. Certainly.
Well done.
Yes. Friendly reminder, we are coming to you live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. You can watch the Magic Valley Prepcast on replay anytime at those 3 destinations as well. You can also listen to the Magic Valley Prepcast at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download and subscribe to your podcasts. In the chat, Scott, your friend and mine, and more importantly, our boss, Paul Kingsbury. You're welcome, Scott. You're welcome. You didn't know it, but Paul was the wealthy benefactor that was
really. How many years have I worked for him? That's the first $100 I think I've made in 15 years, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, sounds like you need Scott Boras on the line.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no kidding. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, we are here to talk about what was a pretty momentous week of basketball, both boys and girls. Okay. One last, Paul says he was cuffed in the backseat, actually. So there you go. All right.
Nice.
All right. Not sure how I'm going to backpedal out of handcuffs to basketball, but here we are. For the record, I did have a good transition, and then Paul got me off track with his comments. So
now you're going to have to double transition. So let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. From the back seat of the cop car to the back courts and front courts in basketball. Not my best, but the big story from this past week, Scott, not just in the Magic Valley, but I thought on a statewide level, at least for the 2A classification, was the Oakley girls basketball team playing Prairie, the #1 team in the state polls, in a neutral site game over in New Plymouth, ironically, of all places, Paul Kingsbury's old stomping grounds. They met in New Plymouth for a neutral site game. Oakley sends a message and knocks off the #1 ranked team in the state in Prairie. This was a huge breakthrough win for the Hornets.
Oh, absolutely. And coaches are going to tell you, oh, rankings don't matter. Yeah, they do. They do, because it's locker room motivation. And now Oakley has taken over the #1 spot in the coaches poll, and Prairie right behind them. In fact, I think when they played, it was just the other way around. But yes, that game for Oakley, those are the games that really can springboard your season just a little bit too. Oakley's 9-0, leading the conference. And, that was a game against Prairie that Prairie's a lot bigger than they are, and so they knew that they had to use their speed and their quickness to kind of combat the size. And so it was one of those games where they pressed, caused turnovers, really worked hard on the boards to kind of negate the size advantage and use transition. I mean, it was the typical small team, big team. What are you going to do? You're going to press them and you're going to run them. And that's what they did. And it was a really nice coaching job by Coach Jones. And she's got a really good group of girls this year.
Yeah, I believe this is her second season as the Oakley head girls basketball coach. A 37-26 victory over Prairie. And Scott, the Hornets defense, and this is something even when Matt Payton was the coach, they pride themselves on tough, tenacious defense. I still remember a couple of years ago, high-octane Lapway team came to state, and Oakley just put the clamps down on them defensively. Yeah. These are the points allowed this year, Scott. They're 9-0, so 9 games so far. 17, 19, 19, 28, 22, 26, 33, 32, 37 in their most recent game. That's their season high. Now, that came to a really good team in Raft River. So the way this works is I vote for IdahoSports.com in the media poll each week for girls basketball. I have to vote on Tuesday, and in my poll, I put Raft River 1, Oakley 2. Well, what happens? They play that night. Oakley wins 49-37. Needless to say, I'm going to have to revise my ballot next week.
Yes, you are. This is a really good Oakley team, winning their games by an average of 26 points. I mean, they haven't had a game in the single digits. You know, they're doubling up their opponents. They're averaging 52 and giving up 26, you know, and so they've got some talented girls. And you mentioned the defense. This is a staple of Oakley. It doesn't matter who's at the helm. They know that defense travels. And in this particular game against Prairie, nobody was really shooting very well. And so if you can't play defense and you can't take defense on the road, then you're not going to win very many ball games, you know. And you're talking to Coach Jones about this team, and you know, she had a lot of great things to say about them, about how competitive they are, and they work hard, and they're coachable, and one of the big things is they get along with each other. And we've touched on this a couple of times when it comes to high school sports, especially high school girls sports, is that we've seen talented teams just kind of disintegrate because they don't get along. This is a group that is not like that. No phones at the table.
What are you in a fantasy football draft or something, Scott? Jeez.
Oh my! It's a playoffs. It's a fantasy football playoff. So, you know, I got to be on alert.
Yeah. Well, Oakley on high alert, and they have put the rest of the state on high alert. You know, it is incredible what they've been able to do. Some of the key leaders of this team, I think right away, of the great junior point guard, Olivia Berligwet. You know, she was a key varsity player last year. Taylon Beck, junior guard in the backcourt as well, has really stepped up and taken on a leadership role. And then, you know, like Dakota Wadsworth as a senior, also a key leader that Oakley is leaning on here. But you're right, the chemistry off the charts with this team.
Yeah, and I think Burlingame is how you say that last one, because I think I just had them somewhere, and I can't remember where, but they're always playing in our gym for something. But, you know, Addie Maceda, she's been huge for them on the boards. You mentioned Berlin and Cranny being really physical, and they've got 4 guards that can really handle the basketball, which means you can't really press them effectively. But you know, they just got off of that stretch, and you mentioned some of those games, you know, playing 5 games in 7 days, and 4 of those were away games, back to back to back to back, you know, and that's going to test you. That's going to test you big time. And that was Murtaugh, Prairie, New Plymouth, Declo, Raft River. That was the stretch of games. And holy cow, you talk about emptying the tanks and then ending with Raft River. So you knew that when they played Raft River, they were running on empty, but they still managed, you know, to get it done. So this is a game, or this is a team that's going to be really fun to watch down the stretch, and see how they keep going and stay healthy.
Yeah. And the schedule doesn't get any easier, Scott. I mean, their next 3 games, they've got one more here in the year 2024. It's at home tomorrow night against Butte County. They just won the volleyball championship, and they're still kind of getting their basketball legs under them a little bit, but that's a really good Butte County team from East Idaho. And then they open the new year, Scott, with Soda Springs, which is a perennial 3A basketball power. And then Valley, the team that got to state last year. So, I mean, that is 3 more just absolutely challenging games for Oakley.
Oh, absolutely. And this conference right now, after about 9, 10, 11 games, depending on where you're at, they've got 4 teams that are above 500. 2 of them, one at 9-0, one at 9-2, Valley at 7-3. You know, Glens Ferry 6-4, Murtaugh's hanging in there at 6-5. So, I mean, this is a really tough conference when it comes to girls basketball. And they are just now getting into the thick of things. Oakley, a perfect 5-0 right now in conference play. Raft River right behind them at 4-1. Obviously, their one loss was to Oakley. And so I think it's going to be a real fun battle, especially with those 3, Oakley, Valley, Raft River, down the stretch.
Yeah, we talk about this in some other districts, but those 3 teams are all worthy of inclusion at state. The reality is only 2 are going to get there. So just one of those things. Them's the breaks. So
them's the breaks. You're exactly right. And it's whoever gets hot at the right time. So we'll see. We'll see. And it's hard to believe that we're pretty much halfway done with that. Halfway done with girls basketball.
Yep.
Not a shade over.
That's the way they schedule it out. And so, girls basketball kind of gets lost in the trees for the first half of the season. And that is another topic for another time, Scott. Let's talk about one of the teams that Oakley has beaten, one of the 9 vanquished opponents that Oakley has had this year, Murtaugh. This is a Murtaugh team that's got pretty good pep and pretty good spunk and is a team that's used to competing in this conference the last several years. They're doing it with a new coach this year. And so for Murtaugh, first-year coach Kristen Young, she was previously the athletic director at Filer. She's now the athletic director and girls basketball coach at Murtaugh. It's kind of a new cast of characters, though. One of the most acclaimed senior classes in recent memory graduated last year from Murtaugh. And so the Red Devils are 5-5 overall, 1-3 in conference play, but they've had to play some pretty challenging opponents. When you look at the schedule, Scott, they've already played Oakley and Rat River. That's 2 of their conference losses in Valley. So they're 1-3 in conference, but it's to Valley, Rat River, Oakley, kind of the consensus top 3 teams. And yet along the way, Murtaugh has also looked good. They beat a really good Dietrich team last week, Scott, in overtime, 51-42. It was a big breakthrough win for the Devils.
Oh yeah, it certainly was, because that was the game coming off of the Callan tournament where they were at our place, a couple weeks ago. And they got a couple of wins, but, they also got spanked by Mountain Home, which is a powerful 4A team. And it was just kind of, just kind of dipping your toe in the water and seeing, okay, how can we handle a really good, bigger school? And then let's see if we can expose some of our weaknesses and get better. And so they did that. And coming right out of that is when they played Dietrich and got him in overtime. And that was a huge win. But, this is a young Murtaugh team, and they've only got 2 returning players, from last year's squad. And it's, between the 2 teams that they have, it's pretty much run by 10 sophomores. And so you're going to hear a lot of these names and these teams hanging around for a couple of years, and again, talking to, Coach Young about it, she says the same thing. These girls genuinely get along. They don't complain, whether they play 1 minute or they don't play at all. They cheer for one another and they get along. So, man, you have that going for you, then you can go places. So they're still doing, they're having their growing pains. They're still trying to figure each other out. But right now, hey, they're having a pretty good season.
Yeah, and in terms of that Dietrich game, we talk about this all the time, the sports psychology, where Murtaugh had a lead in the 4th quarter. Paige Van Tassel makes a basket for Dietrich basically as time expires in regulation to send the game to overtime. But then in the extra frame, Murtaugh outscores Dietrich 13-4 in overtime. So whatever kind of pep talk Coach Young gave her girls in that huddle between the 4th quarter and the overtime tip-off, hey, message received.
Well, you know what? And the thing was, it's one of the questions I asked her is, in the huddle, after the momentum just got stolen, how are your girls responding? And boy, they said they were pumped and they were happy and they were just excited to keep playing, And so when you have that attitude, you're not daunted. And it was very positive. And they used that attitude right there. They didn't hang their heads and say, oh no, we're going to lose one on, No, they just said, hey, we're excited to keep playing. And they finished it well. And plus, they had acknowledged the crowd. The crowd was really into the game, obviously, and that helps a ton, especially in those small gyms. But huge win for them.
Yeah. And so we will keep an eye on Murtaugh here as we get through. They've got a couple more games to wrap up, actually 1 game to wrap up the holiday season here at Liberty Charter. Now, Liberty Charter is kind of the favorite over in District 3. So if Murtaugh can go beat Liberty Charter, the quote-unquote preseason favorite over from District 3, that's going to tell us something about how District 3 stacks up with District 4 this year in 2A girls hoops. So,
oh yeah, no question about it. That's it. Again, this district is tough. And like you said, somebody's staying home.
Yeah. And then they open the new year with a game against Grace, who is a team that you've seen a lot over the years, Scott. And Grace is a really good team from East Idaho as well. So again, challenging schedule for Murtaugh here coming into the new year also. So.
And you know what? Those are the games that you need to play just to kind of get tested. And you don't get any better by playing doormats. You know, you got to challenge yourself. And sometimes you're going to get rocked and exposed. And that's just going to make you better down the road.
Yep. Okay, well, we are going to wrap up today, Scott, with boys basketball, and let's talk about the Wendell Trojans. We talked about them a little bit last week, and we kind of were joking about the 4 J's, right? Jonathan Swainston, Jordan Swainston, they're twins. And then you have Jet Jasper, and then you have, oh, man, I'm already drawing a blank on the 4th J. Borges. Jarrett Borges, thank you.
I got one more J in there. You know what? They're all juniors.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes. Second episode in a row that's brought to you by the letter J here from Jerome, Scott.
Oh,
where you're
wow.
At. So
Wow. You're not joking either. That was really cool.
Well, jumping back into the conversation we were having, like we could do this all day, folks.
Oh, yes, we could. Yes, we could. So anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're totally good. Wendell is 4-2 on the season. And last week, taking on a really good Kimberly team. That is, we kind of talked about Kimberly, the quasi favorite in the 4A ranks this year in the Magic Valley. This is a game that went down to the final 1.7 seconds of regulation. That's where Jordan Swainston hits a pair of free throws to break a 64-all tie and to give the Trojans a 66-64 victory over Kimberly. Big win for Coach A.J. Kelsey's Wendell Trojans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, and there's a little kind of story behind the free throws as well, because, AJ's dad, Alan, is, legendary in the Magic Valley as far as basketball. And in fact, he still shows up to practice and helps the boys, once in a while. And, they call him the Godfather, Alan, the Godfather, right? And so it was funny because a couple of days before that game, Jordan asked the Godfather, for a little bit of help on his free throws. And, he'd been struggling at the line up until that point. And the Godfather helped him. And wow, what do you know?
Do we know what advice the Godfather gave him? Or
forget about it. I can't tell you. You just made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Maybe somewhere the FBI's got the wiretap tapes and they can play it back and listen to it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's those stories are kind of fun, but that's what happened. And and the Godfather was in the Jerome gym last night as our boys were playing Buell, because there's a Kelsey on Buell. I was talking to Alan yesterday. I'm like, gosh, dang! Every time I turn around and I look at a roster, there's a Kelsey on it somewhere, either coaching, playing, cheering. Well, I don't know. How many of you were out there? He's like, I don't know.
Pretty remarkable. This Wendell team is going to be really fun to track throughout the season. As we said, they're 4-2. Their 2 losses came by 6 points to Marcine early on. And then actually right after the Kimberly win, the next night they go to Gooding and lose 56-53. These are good lessons that Wendell can learn early on, that, hey, yeah, we got a big breakthrough win, but how do we stack wins? How do we keep the momentum going?
Yeah, and tonight they have Declo, and Declo right now is undefeated on the year at 6-0. So, let's see how Wendell does tonight, as that game is in Wendell, and that should be a good one. So if you're out and about, head over to Wendell and watch some good basketball.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun battle for sure. We do have a couple of clips and a picture to share here from the Wendell Trojans. Let's go with the picture first, Scott. These are the Trojans in the locker room post-game. It looks like in the front there, I'm trying to see which player that is. His jersey number is obscured by the impressive gold chains that are hanging down in front.
Nice bling.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yep. Those are the boys right there. So, and it's been a really good year for Wendell in sports on the boys' side, as you know. So yeah, like you said, this group is going to be fun, and those starters, all 5 starters, are juniors, and then you got Martin Nava in there. He's the 5th starter and one of their best defenders, and they talk about his defense all the time and how good it is. And they have a junior forward, Gabe Kelsey, also given some good minutes and playing some great defense, and seniors Ray Gomez and Gunnar Jones, they're being the leaders for them. So it's a really good makeup of young underclassmen versus a couple of seniors that are leading the way. So it's fun to watch these kids, and I've watched some film on them, and they're playing hard and they're doing the right things.
Yeah. By deduction here, I'm just eliminating numbers on the roster. That might be Jonathan Swainston with the gold chain on, kneeling down in the front there. And then you mentioned Nava. He's number 4, the guy on the far left. He's the only guy that doesn't have his eyes open in the picture.
There's always one.
Yep. And I also like here, I believe this is Gabe Kelsey, directly to the right of Nava, number 32 there. You can see he's pointing down to the gold chain. I like that. That's a good teammate there. So
yeah. Yep. And they've got the Godfather on the far right, half cut out of the frame. So maybe they weren't supposed to show his face, keep him into shadows.
That's right. That's a fun group though, for sure in Wendell this year. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they go. Big game with Declo tonight, as you mentioned. Here are a couple of clips from that Kimberly game, Scott. The first one is going to be Jonathan Swainston just kind of initiating and scoring. Here's that.
Stop ball defense. My word.
Nope. Nobody came out to meet him. So, and that's a veteran point guard knowing that, hey, if I cross half court, nobody's coming out to pick me up. I might just step into one and let it fly. And there it was.
Absolutely.
So here then is Jonathan Swainston on an assist to Jet Jasper. Kind of the same thing. Good facilitator, great point guard, drives the lane and then kicks.
Oh, pretty shot. Love the finish. A lot of these kids now just kind of short arm it like rubber band. Boom. But I love the finish.
Yeah.
That's a Jordan-esque, the finish. So, but yeah, you could tell that they're really fundamentally well coached. I mean, obviously, the Kelseys are a basketball family, so they're going to be very high IQ players and very fundamentally sound. So.
Yep. And so after tonight's game against Declo, Wendell will not be in action again until December 28th. That will be a home game against Marcy, one of the 2 teams that's beaten them this year. So a chance for some revenge there. And then they'll have a home game with Buell on the 10th. And then what I think is a pretty important stretch here, they will be at Westside. They were picked to win the conference preseason along with Wendell. Wendell and Westside were picked in that tie atop our preseason poll. And then they're at Kimberly on the 20th, a rematch with the Bulldogs as well. So this is going to be an interesting part of the schedule coming up here for Wendell also when it starts, as you said, Scott, tonight against Declo. And hey, Declo and Wendell, what more do we need to say, right?
Yeah, we've never used those 2 words in a sentence together.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's going to be a fun year for these guys, especially underclassmen, and getting some of that experience no matter what happens. But get to state, get that experience, because you're all coming back, or a lot of them are.
Yep. And here is Sean Kane from the East Idaho Prepcast in the chat. Scott, he wants us to predict who wins the Southeast Idaho Conference. See, now that we bleed over, we've got District 4 and District 5 teams all competing in one conference here. Is it Westside? Is it Wendell? Declo was picked third in the preseason poll. Westside has looked very good. They have 2 losses, one to Prairie, one to Royal, which is a school from Washington. I think I got to go with Wendell, just based on what I've seen with my eyes. Westside is always well coached, but they lost so much to graduation, and Wendell's got a little bit more size than Westside does. So that's just, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on the Magic Valley show. I really do think Wendell at the moment, and if Declo beats Wendell tonight, then hey, maybe the answer is Declo too. But
yeah, I'm going to go with Declo or Wendell because I am on the Magic Valley Prepcast.
There you go. You're allowed to do that. I'll allow it.
Okay, good. But yeah, flip the coin. Really, it's who gets hot down the stretch, who stays healthy. Because any 3 of those teams could win it.
And I do think there's a clear separation, top 3, bottom 3. I don't think Soda Springs might have the best player in the conference, Cooper Thompson, but there just isn't enough around him. I saw Malad's varsity roster earlier this year. There were 6 kids on it. Like, that's just, you're not going to win with 6 varsity kids. That's hard to do.
Yeah, you may not finish a season.
Yeah. I mean, they've got JV kids that they could pull up, but that, like, on the actual varsity, 6 kids.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Yep. Soda, a dark horse, maybe. We'll see. Cooper Thompson, he can go get 30 a night. The question is, can somebody else help supplement? So it is going to be a fascinating conference race as we go along, Scott. And as we get into the new year, we'll start to see more and more conference games, especially in girls basketball. And it's been a great year here, 2024 on the Magic Valley Prepcast, Scott. We've kept it going for a 4th scholastic year. This would be our, I think, 4th year in terms of the calendar also. And so 2025 will be the next time we're on broadcasting. What are your holiday plans?
Oh, man. Well, jet setting from Glendale to LA, trying to figure out shopping and trying not to burn down the school. So if I can accomplish those 3 things, then it was a successful holiday. What about you? What are you doing?
Well, I got to ask right now, do we need to confiscate your Christmas candles? Why are you worried about burning the school down?
No, figuratively, Brandon, figuratively. Yeah.
Okay.
People ask all the time, hey, how's it going? I go, well, I haven't burned the building down yet, so I guess that's good. And I don't even mean it when I say that from an arson standpoint. I just mean I haven't accidentally done something dumb.
Right. Yeah. Well, I will be heading to Montana for Christmas, and then I'll be coming back and sometime next week, and then the holiday falls in a weird spot this year where, like, I don't get to. Like, I'll work for it like 2 days, and then another holiday will be here. And so it's going to be very stunted work. So
yeah, well,
maybe boss Paul Kingsbury is still watching. I'm already laying the groundwork for the excuse as to why more didn't get done.
Yes. My lifetime earnings from Paul, my lifetime.
Old Ben Franklin. Well,
yes. Oh, and it was funny because, my phone rang and earlier in the broadcast, and I quickly muted it. It wasn't like 3 seconds later, Paul's calling me. I'll see if I can get him to ring again.
And that's exactly what it was. And how about this? Big brother, always watching. That's from Paul. Okay.
Yeah. That's a little creepy.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
Whew. Yeah. And he knows if you've been bad or good, and he finally paid you after 15 years.
And apparently has a network of state police ready to do his bidding.
That makes him a little bit more dangerous than I originally thought. I thought, just whatever, Paul. But he's got those kind of connections that kind of got me worried.
Yeah. Sean says, yikes. And on that note, let's end 2024 before the real FBI Cash Patel really is knocking at our door, asking to talk to us. I don't want to get any more hot water here. Thank you for tuning in to the Magic Valley Prepcast, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Enjoy some time with your family this holiday season. And we will see all of you back here in 2025. Scott, I'm thinking like January 2nd or 3rd, probably. Thursday, Friday.
Okay. I'll take everything and we can shoot it from LA.
Okay. We've done that before. We did that last year.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we were staying at a hotel on Venice Beach, and it was pouring rain outside, and I was getting all excited because I wanted to go down on the beach and have that be the backdrop, but then it just rained, and so I was stuck in the hotel, and that wasn't very fun. But this time will be a little different. We'll shoot down there.
Instead of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, where in the world is Scott Burton?
That's right. That's right. Chances are, if it's NFL season, he's in LA at SoFi.
Yep. All right. Well, until then, for Scott Burton, I'm Brandon Baney. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you in 2025 on the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.